Welcome to the Dakota Boys Talk Movies. I'm Steven.
And I am Dakota.
And thank you for joining us again. Tonight we're going to be doing our review of The Martian. And we're calling this one what, Dakota?
This is version 2.0.
Yeah. For those of you who don't like us on Facebook yet, which you should, I'll just use it as a plug for Facebook. I did post on there what happened, but we went to The Martian from our recording time of this earlier this week, and recorded our review, and we lost it. It disappeared into the digital. Actually, I don't even think it's in the digital world. I think it's just gone. I don't know what happened. It was like all weird about saving it, and then
I think it was the Gremlins, Steven.
Yeah. There's a little gremlin on my computer ripping it apart, and I was like, hey, don't you guys see that out there? There's a gremlin on my laptop.
It was my comment about not feeding the Mogwai after midnight.
Yeah, that's right. You did. It's your fault. You brought up the gremlin. See, in the episode we lost, Dakota brought up gremlins at the end, and there's your problem. They actually did something.
They're like, whoa, we can't let this get out that we're not supposed to be fed after midnight.
That's right.
This guy has to be stopped.
See, now we said it again, so it's going to happen again.
Oh, man.
Anyway, here we are again. You don't know this, but we know it, that we're here again to do a review of The Martian, starring Matt Damon, directed by Ridley Scott. But first, we're going to do some news tidbits. So what do you got, Dakota?
Well, it was announced this weekend that Seth GrahameSmith, author of Abe Lincoln Vampire Hunter...
I thought you were going to say, a book.
No. Abe Lincoln Vampire Hunter and Pride and Prejudice and Zombies will be directing the Flash movie, which I found slightly confusing because I thought they already had a director. But
I think there was like a rumored director, but it must not have come through. Now is Seth GrahameSmith writing it too, or is he just directing?
I think he was just hired to direct.
That's interesting because he is primarily a writer.
Yeah.
So it's kind of an interesting little twist.
It's kind of like when Randall Wallace directed When We Were Soldiers. It was like, whoa, aren't you a writer, dude? And then that movie turned out to be pretty good.
Yeah, that was good. I thought did he not do the screenplay for We Were Soldiers?
He did, but I think was that his first directing job?
You're right, it was his first directing job. Yeah. But, yeah, because he wrote Braveheart, and, Mel Gibson obviously directed. Oh, I know what he did before that he directed. He directed The Man in the Iron Mask.
Was that him?
Yes.
Wow.
He directed Man in the Iron Mask with Leonardo DiCaprio, and that would have been in, 1998.
99. I think.
Or 99, yeah.
It was the same year as Titanic came out.
Yeah, it was somewhere soon after that where it was like, Leo Fever. And then he was in Man in the Iron Mask, and he did the dual part, but he was a total jerk as the one part where everybody's like, he's a jerk. Anyway, getting off topic, that Seth GrahameSmith, apparently he was hired to direct, and maybe he'll do some tweaking on the screenplay. I would guess.
Yeah.
Maybe as the director, but yeah, it's kind of interesting. When is that Flash movie supposed to come out?
2018.
Right around the corner.
Yeah, I think the Justice League movie is actually supposed to come out before that. I think it's 2017 is the Justice League movie.
That was the last rumor.
Yeah.
Anyway.
They could push it back. Who knows? Who knows what these people are doing?
And on the flip side, the rival to DC, Marvel, announced from when we're filming this today that it's more or less confirmed that Mark Ruffalo will be reprising his role of the Hulk in Thor Ragnarok, aka Thor 3. So that's kind of cool. I'm excited about that. It'll just be exciting to possibly see a good Thor movie. Maybe Hulk will kind of raise the bar. It's kind of funny bringing in like a brainless muscle can raise the bar, but
they haven't been bad movies.
They haven't been bad. They just haven't been the best.
Yeah.
It's just like, it just feels like the Thor movies, it's like they could have done more. You have this really great Thor. You have probably the biggest history of any of the superheroes because he's an actual Norse god. And it just feels like the movies were kind of formulaic, you know?
Yeah. Well, he does have a pretty rich history that they kind of I don't know. It's like we got to get to Earth. That's what people care about. They're not going to care about this movie unless it's on Earth.
Well, I mean, it makes me wonder if they're like afraid to delve into the fact that he goes to Norse hell.
Yeah.
You know, like maybe they're afraid to go that route because really that's the Thor stuff that gets interesting. Or when Loki becomes basically completely an evil tyrant, because they've kept Loki pretty sympathetic.
Yeah.
And they've never, but in the comics, there's times when he's basically total, just evil.
Yeah.
And they haven't really done that. And so I don't know if, like, it's hard for them to go deeper when it seems like they're afraid to go to the places that Thor goes, in the comics anyway. But yeah, so it'll be kind of interesting to see what they do with Hulk. And of course, in Civil War, Hulk won't be in it, but there's rumors that the reason he's not in it is very important to the plot. So it'll be interesting to see what that means and what that means for Ragnarok and all that kind of jazz. I'm jazzed. So, yeah, it's kind of crazy. It's a good time to be a comic book lover, as they say. If you like movies also, I guess, because they're all becoming movies and or TV shows in terms of Netflix doing all those, and then
2016 needs to hurry up and get here. That's for sure.
Yeah. Well, then you got CW having a lot of success with their version of The Flash and Arrow. Gotham is on Fox. Now you have a Supergirl starting this month. And this is besides, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Agent Carter is coming back for a second season. Jeez, we're just on overload.
I think that Supergirl probably has the potential to kind of probably be the more popular out of all these newer shows, though.
Well, it's definitely on a channel that could get it more viewers. If it's going to stay on CBS, it's going to need viewers.
Yeah. Well, one thing that it kind of reminds me of is when Arrow came out, I don't know if they were just doing the best advertising they could, but there wasn't a lot outside. You didn't see much ads or much promoting outside of the actual CW. Like, you saw little clips here and there on other TV shows, like, coming soon, Arrow.
Yeah.
But this...
Or if you bought, like, Warner Brothers movies, they throw that on the front sometimes. But yeah. But we're not here to talk about TV.
Yeah.
We're a movie show. And is there anything else in the news, Dakota? I know you had mentioned... well, we could just bring it up. I guess Mad Max.
Oh, yeah. They're planning a sequel to Mad Max.
We saw it coming.
Yeah.
It was pretty inevitable. And I think...
Actually...
Is a part of the thing is that he says he has 2 scripts?
3.
3 scripts! That's insane!
Well,
that's madness!
The thing is...
And he has 3 typewriters and he's all typing at the same time.
When the movie came out, the movie is something we sadly overlooked. And I know there's some people out there who are like, wow, why didn't you do Mad Max? Because unfortunately we didn't have the time to get together and see it and then review it.
Yeah, it was right at, that came out near the beginning of the summer rush, and we were still kind of getting our feet on the ground with this, and it was one that just kind of got missed. And then we did Tomorrowland instead, which I'd say that was a mistake.
Yeah, we done messed up, guys. I'm sorry.
Our bad.
But George Miller, the director, he's the director of all these Mad Max movies, going back to, like, 30 years ago. He kind of killed the buzz of everybody by saying, well, I'll get around to making a sequel someday in the near future. And a lot of people are like, what? Because he is old. It's one of those
early
things...
70s.
Yeah, it's one of those things where everyone's like, you might not even be around, man. But
same goes for Steven Spielberg, though. He practically has the next 30 years planned out.
Yeah.
He's getting to be close to 70s now, too.
But I think he's got the lifeblood back in his veins, and he wants to do another one with Tom Hardy. And
he's an Aussie, man. They can go forever.
Yeah. He must have sat down, threw some shrimp on the Barbie on the beach, and said to himself...
And went, oi, oi, oi! Or whatever they say down there.
Said, pass me a beer, then started thinking about it, and was like, alright, I'm going to do this.
Not this light stuff. Some of that dark beer. Yeah.
I just thought that was cool because, movies that don't deserve sequels seem to get sequels. Grown-ups 2, anybody? No? Okay.
There's a lot of 2s that shouldn't exist. Yeah. Or son ofs, or...
A whole 10 yards. Horrible movie.
Yeah. Well, what are you gonna do? But yeah, so those are things kind of going on in the news. We like to throw that on the front, and like I said, we use Facebook to also throw some news at you too. So yeah, check it out there too. But I think we'll head into our review now of The Martian.
And go.
I guarantee you that at some point, everything's gonna go south on you.
Ready?
And you're gonna say, this is it. This is how I end.
Commander, Mark is dead. We have to go now.
Now you can either accept that, or you can get to work.
This will come as quite a shock to my crewmates. And to NASA. And to the entire world. But I'm still alive. Surprise. Here's the rub. It's gonna be 4 years for another mission to reach me. And I'm in a hat designed to last 31 days. So I gotta make water and grow food on a planet where nothing grows. But if I can't figure out a way to make contact with NASA, then none of this matters anyway.
We've got an incoming message.
Mein Gott. Mark Watney's still alive.
In your face, Neil Armstrong.
Feels weird. This is like deja vu.
There's been a glitch in the Matrix.
Yeah.
We've done this
Didn't
before.
I just see that cat? Like you said, it starred Matt Damon. He played the I'm guessing title character you call him, the Martian. He doesn't really go by that in the story so much, but he plays the astronaut Mark Watney who gets stranded on Mars, and just through the movie opens with the incident that causes him to get stranded there. Crew thinks he's dead. They reluctantly leave, just because they need to get away so they don't die. And he's stuck there. And as far as he knows, he's going to be stuck there for
4 years.
Yeah, 4 years till the next mission. And the problem is he has enough food for maybe like a year, a little over a year. And so the first question he's asked himself is, how do I survive till the next mission here on Mars? And he's a guy who, he's really set up in the book, but they do a pretty good job in the movie, of a guy who, he takes things kind of in stride.
Yeah.
He doesn't really, he didn't sit there and weep for a while, and I mean, they show him get a little worried at times, but he's really a guy who's more a man of action, where he's just like, okay, how can I stretch this to last for 4 years, and what do I need to do? And that's kind of what the story is. You're kind of following this guy in how do I make this work? What do I need to save? What do I need to do? And it's really interesting because they go into, it's not just a surface movie. What makes it such an intriguing story and what made the book such a hit is that it really gets into the nitty-gritty details of how this could actually work. Like, even the fact of how they get to Mars as quick as they do, and just the details of how does Mark Watney do things to survive on Mars. It's all pretty fact/theory-based stuff.
Yeah.
Which is interesting. But what are some of kind of your takeaways from the movie, Dakota?
Well, going into this thing, I had read part of the book, and the only way I could describe it, because a lot of people ask me, oh, well, what was it like? And it's kind of like Robinson Crusoe in space, pretty much. Except, rather than being stranded on an island thousands of miles away from home, this guy's trapped millions of miles away from home on an incredibly hostile environment.
Yeah, where there's nothing that grows.
Yeah.
How do you grow stuff on Mars is one of the questions he asks himself.
And I don't know, I found probably the most interesting part of this movie is him just trying to survive. And, naturally there's those moments where you could tell he's just kind of thinking about, oh man, how am I gonna last here
Yeah.
And I think it's the strongest part of the movie is when you're just kind of watching Matt Damon on his own, going through trying to live on this planet. But that's the thing is that's not the whole part of this story though, because you have people back on Earth. They find out Mark Watney is still alive. Naturally, everyone assumed he was dead. And the problem then becomes, well, what are we going to do now?
Right, yeah. How do we get him back? Well, because if our next mission is in 4 years, can he honestly last 4 years? And so the people on Earth are thinking about how do we get to him quicker, or how do we come up with ways to communicate with him? They can't really communicate with him. And then even if they could, where do they go from there to help this guy?
Yeah.
And, it just, overall, I mean, just look-wise, man, it really felt like Mars. Like, when he was on Mars, I thought that came across really well. Like, in a more recent movie I saw that took place on Mars would have been John Carter. And I thought, and it was weird because, I mean, that movie just had the red landscape too. But
it looked like it was filmed out in the Badlands.
Yeah, it just didn't come across quite right. And in this one, I don't know, you can just tell they put a lot more time into. You really felt like it was Mars. I don't know, did you feel that way anyway?
Yeah.
I mean, so I thought that really helped. And just like I said, just the book is interesting in that it shouldn't be as entertaining as it is, considering how nerdy it is. I mean, the book is full of, like, numbers and math and science, but he throws in enough humanness to it and humor to where you don't get bogged down in just, like, facts. And the movie did the same thing where Matt Damon is charismatic enough of an actor to where you follow him on his journey and don't care that, there's a good chunk of this movie where it's just him alone. I mean, he kind of proved himself, I thought, in this, didn't you think?
Yeah, definitely.
Where, I mean, he's still no Tom Hanks. But you still are okay following him, and it's an interesting story that intrigues you. And honestly, the cast they put around him is really just kind of a who's who of people who are in other things. You recognize them all, even if you don't know their names. Like, who was on the crew? You got Jessica Chastain.
Michael Pena,
who's most recently was an Ant-Man.
Sebastian Shaw from another Marvel comic movie.
Yeah, Sebastian Stan, that's right. He played the Winter Soldier, and he was one of the crew members. Kate Mara was a crew member. And then...
who, kind of had a rough year, but it's good to see her in a good movie.
Hey, you can't win them all, right? And then there's a Russian astronaut on the crew who, he's not really that big in America yet, but he's actually a huge movie star in his native land of, I want to say Norway is where he's from.
Yeah, I can't even remember the guy's name.
He's Vogel is his name in the story,
yeah.
But in real life, I can't quite recall his name. But he's a big star in Norway. It's just we don't really know him here yet too much. And then Axel Henny, that's his name. But as far as the people who are on Earth working for NASA, you had Kristen Wiig playing kind of more of a dramatic role. She wasn't playing some weirdo comedy.
Yeah. Surprisingly, her role was pretty small.
Yeah, and it was kind of a role where it was like, you wouldn't really need a Kristen Wiig for it. It was small enough. But Jeff Daniels was the director of NASA. Sean Bean was the flight director. And I mean, like I said, a few other people you see around, like Donald Glover from Community. He played one of the other. I mean, it was just people you notice, but it was interesting. When the NASA people get together at one point, they're trying to make it be kind of a secret meeting, and so they call the meeting the
Council of Elrond.
Yeah, Operation Elrond or something.
Yeah.
And what's weird is they're like, you don't know what the Council of Elrond was? It was a secret meeting. And sitting in the room is Sean Bean as they're talking about the Council of Elrond. And it's like, Okay, this is kind of weird here, because if you don't know, Sean Bean played Boromir, and he was at the actual Council of Elrond in the Lord of the Rings movie.
That's probably why his character doesn't say anything.
Yeah.
He's like, what?
I was watching him that whole scene, because I'm like, are they going to have this be, like, self-aware? So, like, while they're talking about the Council, I kept watching Sean Bean, because I was waiting for him to be, like, kind of give a little wink at the camera or something. But he didn't. He just sat there straight. You know, I was waiting for him to be like, one does not simply take a rocket to Mars. One does not simply walk to Mars. That's what he'd say. But yeah, so anyway, that was just kind of like one of those kind of humorous moments there. But overall, what would you say about... You could say it was somewhat of an all-star cast, which can actually backfire you in some ways.
Oh, yeah.
What do you think of the cast overall?
I thought they were all pretty good. I don't know. I feel like Ridley Scott kind of just padded the cast, maybe to kind of get more recognition, but they were all overall fairly good.
They were, and I almost wonder if, you know, I'd have to go back and look at the history, because I don't know where Ridley Scott came into the project, but I would be curious to know how many of those people were signed on before Ridley Scott was totally on board, because I know he was kind of a latecomer to the process. I know Drew Goddard, who wrote it, was going to direct it for a while. And then there were a couple other directors who kind of circled it and didn't quite land. But yeah, I'd just be interested, like, if that was Fox's idea to be like, hey, let's bring in, oh, wouldn't that be cool if Jeff Daniels was in this and stuff, or if that was actually Ridley Scott's idea. Because if you look at, I mean, besides the fact that Ridley Scott uses, when he first used Russell Crowe, though Russell Crowe wasn't a megastar, but he kept using Russell Crowe. But if you kind of look at his past, I mean, he usually doesn't have a very padded cast. He uses people that he thinks are good for the roles.
No.
Especially when you think about his bigger movies. Even when you go all the way back to Alien.
Yeah.
I mean, he was like, Sigourney Weaver was second in the cast under Tom Skerritt. That was like practically her first movie. Her first major role.
Yeah, then a lot of people, I don't even think Ian Holm got, like, his name on the poster.
Yeah, I don't think he probably did. He was in Alien also, still referring to Alien there. And so, yeah, I mean, so that's why I'd be curious just, like, where some of those people came on board. But when you think about it, maybe some of his more recent stuff, you know, like we had talked about in a past episode,
Yeah,
Robin Hood, that had a little bit of a padded cast, I guess, but...
Unless maybe a lot of the actors in there were just huge fans of the book, and they're like, I want to be in this.
And see, that's the other thing. When you have this book that becomes a mega sensation, everybody under the sun wants to be a part of it. You know, it's like when...
I do remember David Fincher saying that he was, like, turning down people left and right to be in Gone Girl. So
yeah, and I think he had the same problem with Dragon Tattoo.
Yeah.
Where he had all these girls coming to him just begging to play Lisbeth, and it was like, you know... Because whenever you have this phenomenon, well, your first thought is easy, you know, like, well, not easy, but like, this is a for sure paycheck.
Yeah.
You know, a sweet paycheck, you know. And so, yeah, I guess there's always that to that. But even though you had that and whatever the politics of that was, they all did a good job. Nobody, I mean, you didn't have any Bruce Willis's in it where they're just totally phoning it in or something. Jeff Daniels maybe a little bit. But I think he was working really hard at playing the character he was playing.
Yeah,
he was trying to come across as really unlikable, and the problem is it just seemed like he was overdoing it, in my opinion. But
yeah, when his character kind of pops up, there is that whole, ooh, is this going to be kind of an antagonist in this movie?
I know, that's the thing, and every time he leaned back, it was like this is my I'm being a jerk face. And so he was the only one where I was like... And honestly, it's not that Jeff Daniels was bad. It was just like maybe he's trying too hard to be a form of antagonist, even though he really isn't. The antagonist in this movie is Mars, really.
Time?
Yeah, Time would be the antagonist, maybe Time. And so, yeah, it's just, yeah. But, and of course, another thing, Ridley Scott is known for is his movies usually have pretty decent special effects. And I would say this is up there with, yeah. I'd say special effects in this were pretty darn good.
Oh, man, they were just gorgeous. I mean, like we talked about this but we don't know if it was made on a soundstage. They actually went out and shot some of these scenes that were supposed to be on Mars, but they made Mars look like a cool place to be.
Yeah.
Just gorgeous with mountains, and then, you know...
Yeah, he really helped you feel the mountainous terrain of Mars, and, yeah.
It kind of reminded me of, this is probably a bad example, but Watchmen.
When they went to Mars?
Yeah, and
okay.
I think this is how Mars is supposed to have looked in that movie, because Dr. Manhattan's talking about how beautiful it is, and it's like, it looks like a really, really cheap painting, dude. What are you getting so excited about?
That movie had some cartoony moments, though.
Unfortunately.
But yeah, this really came across as a real place, and you're right, there was like almost, even though it was bleak, it was still had a beauty to it. Which is, I think, always been the intrigue of Mars, when we send those probes and those rovers, is that even though it is bleak, it's just so different, and, such a deep red to it, it just almost has a beauty to it. And but at the same time, you feel all of Mark's struggles in, like, he's battling the winds that come through that are just brutal, and he's battling the fact that how can he grow anything in this place, and try to figure that out. And what helps, one of the things that really benefits Mark Watney is that he's a botanist, and so he's like, well, if anybody can figure out how to grow something here, it'll be, this guy. He points at himself, basically. And it's interesting, you watch him kind of walk through that process of, I gotta get stuff to grow here, or I'm dead. And, it just, all that's pretty cool, so. Yeah, anything else, Dakota, on that?
There's so much to talk about with this movie. One of the things I thought was pretty funny about it was just Mark Watney's sense of humor. I mean, he's in a pretty bleak situation, and there's a point in the movie when one of the characters asks one of the other characters, what's going through his mind right now? And he's just kind of complaining about the fact that the only music he has to listen to is disco.
Yeah, he's so mad, because all he has is the Commander's disco music to listen to, and 70s TV shows to watch.
But it was, I don't know, it's stuff like that kind of kept the movie interesting. There definitely weren't any boring parts in this movie.
Yeah, it was interesting. The book, there is a certain amount of lightheartedness to it, even though it is a bleak situation, and it's cool that even with someone like Ridley Scott coming in, who could make just a straight-up heavy, serious movie, kept that lightheartedness really well in the movie. It didn't feel like he was trying too hard to do that.
Yeah, for the most part, though, the ending I found pretty suspenseful. I mean, they come up with a plan to kind of get Mark Watney off Mars, and it's actually a pretty insane plan. And NASA obviously has some of the most brilliant minds working for them, and you have Mark Watney just kind of sitting on Mars going, are you effing kidding me?
Yeah, it is funny. Well, and then when when they're telling him how to do farming, and he's like, I'm here and I'm a botanist, don't you think I know what I'm doing, and all this stuff. And yeah, it is funny how they kind of, because of how the writer of the novel really decided to make Mark Watney's personality, that's just how it comes across. But I think that is the route that this author decided to take, was, how about instead of delving into what everybody else delves into, someone who's uber serious and having a psychological breakdown, let's take it from the angle of a guy who really takes it in stride, who seems like he was actually born for this situation in a way. And they don't mention it in the movie, but in the book, not only is Mark Watney a botanist, but he also has a master's in mechanical engineering. And in the movie, you get a sense that he knows what he's doing with that stuff. But you know, and they even mentioned in the book how if anybody was going to have this happen to him, he was the right guy, because part of the other reason he was picked for Mars missions was that he was very comfortable in isolation or like, you know, being in places like that. So, I mean, it was kind of like one of those things where the author just said, you know, let's take it from the angle of a guy who's like almost the absolute best person to have in this situation, and see what you know, we could put him through and stuff like that. But yeah, just kind of interesting.
You know, the sad thing is, if it was anyone else that was part of that crew that got left behind, it probably would have ended very badly.
Yeah, you know, I thought about that. And,
especially if it was Jessica Chastain's character.
Yeah, she was way too serious.
Oh, yeah.
She was still in Zero Dark 30 mode in this movie.
More than likely, she probably would have been contemplating ending her life, just like, well, I'm gonna die anyway. Let's just finish this up.
Yeah. Yeah, and even Wani took that in stride. Like, oh, I have this pill that I take to kill myself if I get to that point. But, hopefully I don't get there. You know what I mean? He's just like, what? Who thinks like that? You know, just so...
That's like the last... That's like Plan ZZZ, I guess.
Yeah, Triple Z. But that is the line that they ride in this, in that you could say, well, that's almost unbelievable that anybody would be like that in that situation. But you watch this and you think, well, maybe there is somebody like this who could actually handle the situation the way he did, because he comes across as someone who is very comfortable. Even because when they finally kind of cut to a point where he's really shrunk down in terms of, you know, he hasn't been eating much for months and he's really emaciated and you know, his beard's more out, you think, oh, they're going to show crazy, and, you know, it's like, I don't know, do they? And he still isn't totally nuts. He's just really, and it looks like, I don't know, unless they have really good CGI, did Damon actually lose the weight?
No, he didn't. He actually wanted to, but Ridley Scott told him not to go for it, so they went CGI.
They did, okay, because it looked pretty real.
Yeah.
So I was like, man.
Maybe, unless they used the body double, because there is a scene where you see him getting out of the shower, and he has a towel draped over his head.
They kind of use that scene to show you just how
emaciated he looks,
just how gaunt he is and stuff, and so, yeah, it's kind of interesting, kind of just how they're able to do that now, if that wasn't him, you know, just because you think of Tom Hanks and Castaway and how they stopped production for a year to allow him to lose weight, grow a beard. You know, Tom Hanks actually went total method, but...
Which is odd, because you don't really hear of him doing that.
Yeah, he's put on some weight for roles, like in A League of Their Own. Penny Marshall told him, oh, you're too young and good-looking and whatever, and so he's like, well, I can fix that, and he ate a bunch to give himself a gut, you know, and he'll do... and in fact, he's kind of notorious for doing things like that in a very unhealthy way. Whereas, like when...
Robert De Niro in Raging Bull?
Yeah, that was pretty unhealthy too, but like Chris Hemsworth, like when he gets into like super bulk mode for Thor and then goes back down for other roles... Yeah. Like, he does it, like, in a way where it doesn't, like, shock his body so bad. But, I mean, you know, Ridley just was probably thinking of Damon's health, you know, because you can really have some serious health issues if you handle that poorly. And so, yeah. But, yeah, overall, how did you feel, how the movie, like, just whole experience, leaving the movie... How did that all feel for you, Dakota?
I actually thought this was probably one of the... I don't want to say better, but it was one of the more uplifting movies I've seen in a while. Like, you just see this character going through so much, and at the end, he perseveres through it all, and... Or
does he?
I guess I just ruined the movie there, maybe.
Yeah, there's a lot to it.
Yeah.
We didn't tell you. We're purposely kind of dancing around it. But.
Yeah. But to be fair, this was a book, and a lot of people out there know the ending. So. Yeah. But, I don't know, I just found it... One of the last movies I saw before this one was Black Mass. And that was a very dark movie Like, I kind of just wanted to go home, lay down, just, like, just be alone for a while to decompress. But this one, I don't know, it was really good overall. This was one of, I'm going to throw this out there, probably one of Ridley Scott's, the best movie he's done in a while.
Yeah, definitely one of the better ones he's done in a while. Yeah.
Matt Damon, I thought, was just incredible.
Very good in the role. He fit well for Watney.
Yeah. And I don't know, I don't really have anything bad to say about this movie, and I'm just going to encourage people to go see it. And possibly take a friend.
Yeah, I mean, I'm basically in the same boat. There's not really much bad you can say about the movie, and you're right. I mean, maybe every few years we get an actual kind of human can-do spirit type movie, and this definitely fits into that camp. And it has been a while since I can think of one where it's kind of like, especially really like a lone survivor type perseverance of a situation type, type situation like that. And so in terms of that, it's a really, if you like those type of movies, it definitely fits that category. But, I mean, overall, I mean, it's not like, well, I want to go because it has that. But everything else is good in this movie, too. You have a story that actually, for the most part, makes sense, and is based in like we talked about, some form of reality / theoretical reality. And, it's just not too often you have a story that you leave and you go, man, that almost feels like it could have been based on true events, except I know that nobody's been to Mars that we know of. And so, it was just, overall it was a really good experience, and I don't know, it's hard to say if the 3D would be worth it. You tell me, I guess, people out there. Maybe the rocks would pop out a little more or something, but I mean, there's parts of the movie that are beautiful to look at in the way it's shot. There's parts of the movie that have like the struggles you go through. It gets really intense, and I mean, it just has everything you want. It still has the humor, and everything blends really well. And so, it's definitely one that's worth seeing. And if you see it in theaters, go for it. Beyond that, I'd have to watch it again to really know if it has rewatchability, but it's definitely worth the watch, is what I would say. So, anything else you want to add, Dakota?
No, I think we got it all.
Yeah. So, again, this, was a review of The Martian with Matt Damon, directed by the man, the myth, the legend, Ridley Scott. He's done a little bit of everything, but sci-fi, he just is good at nailing sci-fi.
Yeah.
I mean, he definitely just can nail an interesting, intriguing sci-fi story, and in my opinion, he's done it again with The Martian. So, I think with that, again, just a reminder, rate and review us on iTunes. If you're listening on YouTube, like it, things like that. All that kind of means something to us and to the world, possibly, at least the internet world.
Yeah.
And also, like us on Facebook. We'll keep you updated on things going on there. We like to throw on news, other than just, here's our next episode. We're trying to make it a little bit of a movie news place, too. So, so check us out there, too. But I think with that, we'll go ahead and wrap up the show. So this is Steven.
And this is Dakota.
We'll see you on the flip side.